Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out and generate more leads, more sales, more profits. More importantly, so you can go out and have a bigger reach, a bigger impact, and make a bigger contribution. Have you ever wondered to yourself, how is it that these big launches that people talk about, or these big giant campaigns that people talk about, gain so much traction, so much momentum, right? And at the same time, have you ever said to yourself, oh my God, affiliate marketing sucks? Well, guess what? If either of those cases is true for you, you are in the right place at the right time. The fact of the matter is, traditional marketing is dead. Traditional affiliate marketing is dead. And traditional affiliate market is to blame for a lot of people having bad experiences. They try to grow their impact, grow their reach, grow their ability to make a bigger difference and build financial success. Well, guess what? Today, we have a unique special guest expert who is someone I consider a good friend. His name is Charles Byrd. He is a super connector, to say the least. He is a venture expert, a joint venture expert. He helps create frictionless systems where he helps course creators, maybe like you, coaches, consultants, maybe like you, to create dependable revenue on demand through using strategic partnerships, through joint ventures, which I will say is one of the most unique approaches you'll ever see. You see, here's the problem with most traditional affiliate marketing. It's transactional based. Charles's approach is all about the transformation and the relationship. So if something there excites you, you're going to love our conversation today, talking about what he does, how he does it. I mean, he's worked with some of the biggest names in the world, Brian Tracy. I mean, the list goes on and on. I'll save that for some of our conversation. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, jot down some notes. Be ready, because Charles is going to share a blueprint with you on how to make strategic partnerships and joint ventures work for you to grow your business and your impact. Charles, welcome. How are you, brother?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Absolutely. So I want to dive into it. I know you've been on this journey. We got a chance to meet, I think it was just short of 7 years ago or so, at an event we got to give a shout out to Dr. Jeremy Weiss, Rise 25 Media, for helping get us connected together in that amazing mastermind they hosted so many years ago. But as you've been doing this, and you've worked with so many high profile clients over the last several years, and helping your clients get amazing. What are some of the big mistakes, Charles, that you see most people making when it comes to strategic partnerships, joint ventures, this sort of thing to grow?
Okay, one of the biggest mistakes is not doing them. Lots of people are surrounded by insane opportunity that they're not moving forward with. Before I continue answering that question, I want to give you personally a shout out. You were at the second event I ever went to in this industry, and you were super nice to me, super supportive. I remember I shared what my offer was at the time, and you're like, so what's the back end for that? And I'm like, what's a back end? That's how brand new I was. And so you've been supportive from the beginning. You've come and spoken at my Pure JV events. We've collaborated many times. You've supported me personally, lining up some pretty big deals. And so I want to thank you for that. So to answer that question, again, literally it is people not doing them. And there's certain things that hold people back. I did a 2-hour presentation yesterday, and one of the we asked this mastermind group what holds them back, and it's always common things. One, it is thinking, well, this person's list is this big and mine's only this big, so we're not in the same playing field, so I'm not even going to try. Or they think, if I were to line up some type of promotional partnership, if they promote me, I have to promote them back. And that's also not the case. These are all stories we tell ourselves, or how can we provide enough value for them to want to do anything with us? So these are easily overcome. And so ideal clients that I'm able to support have, they already have converting offers. They already have audiences. They're known for what they do. They're very good at what they do. They just haven't tapped into the magic of joint venture partnerships, which literally can double or triple a business's revenue. I was chatting with Jeff Walker's brother, John, in November. We're in a mastermind group together, and I asked, what percentage of your revenue from the product launch formula launches comes from partnerships versus paid traffic? 95% comes from partnerships.
Wow.
Which is insanely high. For Ryan Levesque, it's around 40%, 45% comes from partnerships. The other big chunk comes from his list, 40%, 20% from Facebook ads. And I'll point out his list was likely built a majority using partnerships too. So my point in saying this is no matter what marketing strategy you're looking to employ, joint ventures and partnerships are the fuel that make them work very efficiently. And then the other kind of issue I would see is people feeling that the partnership is transactional. And there are people in the world that treat them that way, but my approach and that of my clients is just building really strong long-term relationships and figuring out how to make the best opportunity for everyone involved, for their audience, community, clients, for them, and for you, and playing the long game. And so, yeah, those would be some of the top things I see holding people back from really leveraging what is insanely lucrative when done well.
And speaking of that, let's speak, you've had this rise of success. I mean, you're speaking at all kinds of crazy events and rubbing elbows with some of the biggest names in the world now. What's a mistake that you look back on and go, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Maybe your biggest mistake, and, not only what that was, Charles, but what did you learn from that our viewers, our listeners could learn too?
Let's see. Biggest mistake. Well, one thing I am a big fan of is taking the wins you have and rolling them into the next ones. But you want to do it in a way that kind of shows your momentum and authority, but never in a kind of boastful way. So it's an art form to get that right. And I think overall I actually do pretty good at it, but I've been at events that I was kind of mentioning where I was and this and that, and didn't impress probably a person or two. But in general, it's one of the secrets of getting momentum with this. It's like if you're booked to speak at an event and you just mention that in the right room, you'll get 3 more events because you're speaking at that event. So doing that artfully, which I'm happy to explain how to do, that helps you take the momentum you have in what you're doing and parlay it into the next, it cascades forward into the next array of opportunities.
And what I love about this, Charles, if you're watching or listening right now, you'll see that, Charles is a very mild-mannered dude. He's laid back. He's not the overzealous, partner gatherer, aggressive sales kind of person that you might think of. He just finds problems, helps people get solutions. And he's really great at helping people get growth from using partnerships. There's something you shared with me a couple years ago, and that it really fascinated me. It was this idea of embedding, and you're kind of alluding to it, I think, embedding your partnership opportunities or embedding your growth, again, without feeling like you're being like a sleazy salesman or whatever. Speak to that a little bit, because I think it's a very unique. And if you're watching or listening, or maybe you're a little bit more reserved, or maybe you're even consider yourself an introvert, you might even consider yourself shy, and you're like, oh, I'm not putting a spotlight on me. You might just love this really elegant and simple approach that Charles has mastered and helped others with too.
Sure. So I'll compare this to the alternative and then explain how it works. So I'm a big fan of creating dependable revenue by lining up promotional speaking opportunities. Like I'll give an example of that for people, like a joint venture webinar. So a partner like Brian Tracy, for example, he has an email list of around 500,000. He mails his whole audience, inviting them to a training I'm putting on, and then deliver a high value training, and at the end offer a program or course. And then the revenue that comes in is shared with the partner who has the audience, and then you who have the product. So I book 2 to 6 of these per week, and my clients do as well, because I show them how. Now, an embedded partnership is a deal you make where you make one deal that ends up being a traffic source ongoing. And it's taking part of or all of your product or service and putting it inside of other people's offers. So I'll give you 3 examples. One, Eben Pagan has a program called Virtual Coach. And I met Eben a couple years ago, actually out at Burning Man, and we became friends, and I helped him get some large partners for a launch he had. And then he asked if I would be the joint venture expert inside of his virtual coach program. So inside of Eben's program, I'm training in there, and Eben's interviewing me inside of his program. Therefore, all his people, every time he offers this, get exposed to joint ventures. They get to know me, and I come in as an authority because Eben's the one that brought me there. So I have the same thing set up with Yannick Silver for the Mavericks. I have it set up with John Assaraf and his Winning the Game of Business program, with Danny Inney, with a whole array of people. And the beauty is, it's one promotional partnership you create that ends up being an ongoing lead source. And 2 of my clients from last year, I taught them how to do this. And one of them, it's generated 1.5 million for him. The other 1.8 million, with 4 million on the back. And in fact, yesterday I presented inside of an embedded partnership mastermind group. So one of my friends and clients, Kane Minkus, John Assaraf referred him. I helped him get up and going with JVs after he couldn't do stages anymore because of COVID. He'd been doing 200 plus stages a year with Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard. So I taught him how to create embedded partnerships. So he put together a mastermind offer. It was, I think, $12K. And he kind of did it in reverse. He brought in an array of experts to share their content inside of this mastermind offer. He brought in Roland Frazier, John Assaraf, Mike Koenigs, Blue and Barry, Kevin Harrington of Shark Tank, myself. And he did $1 million in 3 days off of that. And then they offered it again. So they got up to 1.5 million. And I just presented in that group yesterday because my content was part of that offer. So it works really well. And one way you can think about it too is setting up one-off partnerships or promotional partnerships, joint ventures, and then the ones that hit it out of the park. You love them, they love you. It's just like this beautiful synergy between what your message and offers are. Those are the folks you follow up with to line up these embedded partnerships. And that's where 80% of the revenue comes from anyway. So yeah, that's the idea. And they're really fun to set up because then you end up with these long-term great relationships too.
And as you're watching or listening right now, like, what would it be worth for you to build an embedded partnership or two or three of some of your favorite people you might want to just hang out with, do business with, right? Celebrate with. And how could you go out there? What would it do for your business if you set those up and you had a steady flow of leads coming in, a steady flow of clients coming in every week, every month, every year from a couple main sources that are endorsed by them because you're part of what they offer, right? Think of the sales cycle and how much shorter it gets when you're getting that kind of endorsement, right? Now, someone might be saying, Charles, to that end, well, hey, Charles, hey, Dan, okay, well, what do I need to do? Like, what are a couple steps that I can put in place that are working now to help me get these kind of things set up in a unique way? Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So I like helping people with 4 different kinds of JVs. So I'll say what those are and then share a few steps and what you can be doing instantly to get going with some of these approaches. So number 1 are referral partnerships. Easiest thing in the world. There's no infrastructure required. In fact, Dan, you sent me a referral a week or two ago, and it's as simple as knowing what someone's great at, and then as you're talking to someone else, learning what their needs are, and then matching those up. And last week, I received 15 referrals and intros from friends and industry folks. Paul O'Mahony, who was a previous client out of Ireland, he sent me a referral. One of my other friends sent me a bunch of them. You sent one. And we should all be setting these up all the time. So it's worth paying attention to what people are fantastic at. Who is their ideal client and who do they serve? And then as you're chatting with other people, connect the dots and share those connections, because it's of high value to both parties when done well. The next type are JV webinars. That's presenting to other people's audiences, and there's different flavors of these too. There's kind of broad campaigns mailing to an entire list, or maybe it's presenting inside of someone else's mastermind group or inside of other people's high ticket programs. So those are additional ways to get going. Then there's these embedded partnerships we were just referring to, where part of or all of your product or service is inside of someone else's. And then there's social JVs like podcast interviews, Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives. These are opportunities to get in front of other people's audiences, share your ideas, wisdom, and it's a pathway back into your sales pipeline and building relationships and getting more exposure. It's providing value as well. So from a referral partnership standpoint, again, zero infrastructure required. It's basically having a chat with your peers or colleagues and listening to who they serve, and then offering to share intros as you come across people that help meet those needs. I was on another podcast on Monday. I'm sending that guy like eight or 10 intros of like amazing guests, who many of which happen to be my clients too. So he's not having to track down these badass people to have on his show. And for them, they're getting exposure and joint venture opportunities out of it. So they're both coming out ahead simply by me connecting the dots, which any of us can do.
Amazing. And again, just watching how your business has unfolded over these last few years has just been, fascinating to see how, there's a lot of experts that they share a front stage persona and strategy, and then their backstage is kind of really different. Whereas what I love about you, Charles, is from my experience with you, is that your front stage and your backstage match up, right? And which is always, it's almost shocking how rare that is today in the world we're in. So it's refreshing is what it is. So speak to like, okay, what are a couple steps? I want to put this in place. Wow, you've opened up my eyes to see it a lot differently, regardless of my business. What do I do to get started? What does someone do?
Okay, so number one, and this is what we walk clients through, is what is your offer? Who is it for? And then based on different elements there, from lower ticket offers to higher ticket offers, the strategy shifts. So last year I was running a bunch of group programs teaching joint ventures. So doing presentations, webinars to people's audiences, presenting in high-level mastermind groups. That was the appropriate strategy for that kind of offer. I'm doing more and more private client work, and those businesses are over $1 million. So the strategy shifts because the offer is further up market. So lots of referrals, going to events where my ideal clients are and speaking. December, I spoke at the National Speaker Association. Alex Mendozian had me present in November at the Pathfinder Mastermind. These are rooms that have my ideal clients in them. And even just attending these kind of events. Like next week, I'm going to your neck of the woods for the Genius Network annual event. Because it's rooms full of people I can help very easily. And we would want to think about it the same way. Now, if you're looking to do joint venture webinars and those kind of things, let's take a quick look at what you would need to be able to do that. So for one, of course, you need your offer, which entrepreneurs and businesses have different offers, different markets. Then you'd want to kind of assess who already has my ideal audience. Who are they following? What books are they reading? What communities are they in? What Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups are these folks in? What events are they going to? And by simply creating, starting with a client avatar, then you create a partner avatar. Who are these people following? And then go into those communities online at events, and start building relationships. On the technical side of what do you need to do this, let's say we're doing a joint venture webinar, for example. You need things like a webinar registration page for people to register for a live or pre-recorded webinar. You would need what's called swipe copy. It's basically emails you give to your partner to mail to their list, inviting them to the training you're putting on, hosted by that partner. And then you'd need like Zoom or GoToWebinar or some other platform for presenting. And then, of course, like a checkout page or a call sales funnel. If you have a higher ticket offer, typically over 2,000, you would run into a sales call. So technically speaking, those are some of the things you would need. But you can also keep it nice and simple. You could have a friend or colleague, if they love what you're doing and they want to share it with their folks, they could just handpick a few of their top clients and then invite everyone to a intimate Zoom call and keep it light and simple with basically hardly any infrastructure at all to do it. So the good news is you can do this with hardly any infrastructure and get more advanced as you get going.
So if I were brand new, kind of at this, right? What would you say would be the first step and then the next step to look at putting in place?
Okay. Well, number one, you'll want an offer of some kind. You can, of course, start building relationships before you have an offer, but it is helpful to know, what market you'll be working in or already working in, so that you'll know the types of folks to start building relationships with. I remember the event you and I were at all those years ago in Austin. my product at the time was a low ticket productivity course, and it wasn't actually even done. It was about 85% done. And I remember a gentleman across the table had a blog with 90,000 downloads a month. And Michael Roderick was sitting to my right, and he would assemble all these groups. And Tim Francis, many of these folks I'm friends with to this day from that first event. And I thought, well, what if I go connect and get to know this person who already has my ideal audience? So we can be relationship building the whole time. And in fact, we should be. And again, it's not transactional in its nature. It's legitimately getting to know people and who they serve, and then tapping into our own set of superpowers to support them. And those can be professional things. They can be personal things. They can relate to hobbies. I'll just share a few examples. So by asking what people are seeking to accomplish, what they're up to that has them excited, they'll tell you. And by asking about their ideal client and their offer, they'll tell you that as well. And that starts giving you a pathway to serve them using your superpowers. Mine, joint venture strategy, connections, systems. My business partner, Bill Barron's phenomenal at designing irresistible offers and strategy. We each have our own professional superpowers, and then we have other hobbies or interests. Maybe we're both parents. Like, there's so many other avenues to support and engage, and seeing opportunities to serve folks over time. It's little things. Like I was at an event with Eben Pagan and his wife, and I noticed there was no photographer. I happen to love photography and be good at it, so I offered to take pictures and share it. It's little things where you're seeing, maybe they have a product that's offered to a particular market, and you could go, if you offered that to this other market, it could be worth twice as much. It's just sharing insights, connections, ideas, platforms, a whole array of ways to support leveraging what you're great at. So as you build these relationships, you can start feeling out what the biggest winning opportunities are for each of you. So that's why I like going into any call, knowing what outcomes would be wins. And they don't all have to be the same thing. It could be landing them as a client, creating a JV partnership, getting booked on their podcast, being invited to present on their stage, becoming a referral partner for each other. By having these different pathways in mind, as you interact, you can start guiding toward the best, most winning outcome for all of you, and providing value on the way, leveraging your superpowers.
And you know how to leverage your superpowers. And as you're watching or listening, it's pretty obvious that for Charles, this is easy, right? It is his superpower. Like, he talks about, setting up these kind of relationships and that sort of thing. For a lot of people, they're hidden blind spots. There's a challenge. There's, a bump in the road, if you will, or sometimes it can even just flat out stop you, right? And so, like, what would it be worth if you actually worked with a pro like Charles? So you have an option. You can go do it on your own, or you could team up with someone like Charles. Well, number one, he's already got all these relationships cultivated to bring to potentially you. And he also will lead by example to demonstrate for you a lifetime skill that maybe you haven't, and several skills and capabilities you hadn't even thought of before, to be able to see opportunities where many wouldn't even see it. Right? Because that's also one of his gifts, talents, and ability. Now, I know and there's so much more we could talk about, Charles, and I'd love to go deeper. However, for the sake of time, I know we've only really scratched the surface here, but I mean, I've like literally all kinds of, things going across the screen because of all the bombs you're dropping here. If someone wants to connect with you, they want to learn more about how, the different I know you got all kinds of resources, all kinds of available training, and or someone could literally just say, hey, Charles, what does it take to actually have you do this for me? Speak to where they can connect with you, find out more.
Sure. So we have my new site is up. It's charlesbyrd.com, BYRD. So that's a great place to go learn more about how this all works. And there's a link to book a call. A direct link if you want to book a conversation is clarity.purejv.com, clarity.purejv.com, or again, charlesbyrd.com, BYRD. And so, yeah, we have a coaching program that serves entrepreneurs to snap this into their business and get up and going. And I also do private client work. And the results sometimes even shock me. One of my clients, Jackson Milan, he has a 11K offer helping businesses like ours focus on our core numbers. And he was doing 3-to-1 on Facebook ads and happy with that. And then Facebook shut down his account, as they tend to do. He was referred to me. I taught him how to line up joint ventures systematically. He lined up 70 presentations to other people's audiences in 2 months.
Wow.
And which is insane on its own. And that also helped him build relationships with his top 10 integrated partners. He goes back to those communities every quarter. And he's done 1.8 million in cash and 4 million in back-end revenue. It's his core lead strategy. He's also good at content marketing. But yeah, it's just remarkable. So it's a joy to serve people this way because they have this untapped gold just sitting in the couch cushions.
And I want to encourage you to take action with what Charles has shared with you. Go check out the amazing resources he's got available. You can go to charlesbyrd.com, charlesbyrd.com. That's charlesbyrd.com, or go to clarity.purejv.com. That's clarity.pure, P-U-R-E-J, like joint, V like venture, joint venture, J, clarity.purejv.com. So check out what Charles is doing. Number one, he's, one of the most genuine people you'll get a chance to meet. And, you'll see him at all kinds of events. He travels and mingles with a lot of the top experts in the world. You'll also find that he's very open to conversations and help and, finding ways to help other people like he talked about today. So Charles, as we wrap this up, what's something I should have asked you that maybe we didn't get to yet?
When we're going to go have dinner together?
Again, yes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe when you're out here in Phoenix.
Yeah, I'll be flying out on Thursday. So let's see. What should have you asked? Well, you had some great questions. I think a key one you did ask is how do you actually get going? And so that's a good one. And I don't think you missed anything too mind-blowing. So you nailed it.
All right. Well, let me ask you a different question then, because I know one of the things that always fascinates me about you too is not just the business side of Charles, but the family side. And you're very active in your social media places of, sharing stuff with your kids, with your wife, with your family. And it's just, it's inspiring, right? Because a lot of people, like they get into business mode and they, their family becomes leftovers, their kids become leftovers, and they just, almost everything they do is related to the business. And, we know where that ultimately leads. If your home life is not in order, your business life will soon not be in order. And if your home life is a wreck, soon enough, your business will be a wreck. And you have, you lead by example, your front stage, backstage matches. So I'm going to ask you a question that might be personal, probably is personal, but I love to ask it. And it's, as you've been on this journey and you've, had some ups and downs that we've talked about, and, you are in a really great state of momentum right now. But it isn't always easy, right? And so as you, think of your wife for a second, right? And like, if you were going to, walk off of this interview today and you're going to go give your wife a hug and just say, honey, thank you for, what would you thank her for in the way she showed up to allow Charles to operate and be his best self? Tell us about it.
That's a phenomenal question. And it's one that actually comes up. I mentioned this to my wife 2 weeks ago. So from the very moment when for a tiny bit of background, I worked in the Silicon Valley for 15 years. I was the director at $1 billion software company. And when I left, I wanted to create a company. And I actually had no idea what it was going to be to start with. And I was like, honey, I don't want to go back to corporate land. I want to start something that's ours. And she was completely supportive from day one. And I know certain people that that their spouses were not supportive. I have friends from like college-esque era that were dying to leave their corporate job and did not get the support of their spouse. And so they're still stuck in a job they don't like because they didn't get that support at home. And my wife has always been supportive of it, which enabled me to do me. It enabled me to go make things happen, having her trust and support behind it. And so not having those big debates at home over investments or time spent, that's been a huge catalyst to empower me to get this kind of momentum. And I always make the family a priority. Why would we go create a life of freedom and impact and more revenue than ever and not utilize it to invest in our family life? That's where meaning and joy comes from. So to me, they go hand in hand. In fact, from the very first messaging my company ever put out, it was about work-life balance and family. And so like every morning when the kids go to school, I make sure I'm there to give them a hug on the way out the door, greet them when they come in, go ride skateboards or whatever with them, because why are we doing all this work if not to better the quality of our family life? So, and as with anything, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'm on a few back-to-back trips, but I've also started bringing the family on those trips. I took the family on the marketers cruise, and Thursday we're flying out to Phoenix, bringing the family. And then I go to San Diego, and then Cabo, I'm bringing my wife. So it's learning to integrate and just find opportunities to invest there. And also setting boundaries. My kids are getting, 11 and 13. So like if you didn't invite them down to dinner, they wouldn't come. So it's creating rules and boundaries, like this is family time and it's not negotiable. And by taking away the little potential conversations about not doing that and just setting a framework, and then at dinner talking about 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things that you made happen today, and creating an environment focusing on the positive instead of what negative thing happened that day. And just, it's kind of a family culture that you're designing into the DNA of your daily life.
And speaking of DNA, if you not only want to have tremendous relationships at home with your wife, your spouse, your kids, but you also want to use and leverage strategic partnerships to grow your business, Charles is one of the best in the world to be able to do it. And so I encourage you, go check out what he's got available at charlesbyrd.com. That's charlesbyrd.com. You can go to clarity.purejv.com. That's clarity.purejv.com. And Charles, thank you for the time. Thank you for sharing all this wisdom. I feel like we packed it like a 3-day event almost in a day, in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, Dan. It's always a joy to spend time with you. You're very wise, and you have a huge heart, and everyone sees that. So you're very appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome. So there you have it. He's Charles Byrd. Take action with what he's been sharing with you today. Apply it. Now you have a choice. Do it on your own, or you can go find someone like Charles. And I encourage you, go find Charles to help you make this work even better. Apply what he shared, right? Because what's it going to cost you if you fumble around at this for the next few months or the next few years? And then you ultimately go, oh, okay, well, now let me go. On the other hand, what if you just had someone like Charles in your corner? How big of a difference do you think it might make, right? And if you're sitting on the fence, just reach out to Charles, check out his resources, and or get a conversation go with him, right? He makes it pretty simple, right, to identify if there's a fit or not. So apply what he shared. Seize the day. Take action. And we'll see you on another segment coming up around the pike. Make it a great day. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of growthtofreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day? Or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growthtofreedom.com.